Do you have a quarterback on your roster that you don't know if you can trust or not? Let's talk about some quarterback start sits for week 3. What is going on, everybody? Jake, Fantasy Headliners. Hopefully everybody's doing well out there. Today we're talking about some quarterbacks. There's been some inconsistencies from the quarterback position, to say the least, so far this year, and there's probably a lot of people out there not knowing what to do. Can we trust the hot starts of some, or should we give up on some of the studs who just aren't producing yet? We're going to talk about it here for week 3. Before I get into the list, though, make sure you guys head over to RotoBaller. Make sure you subscribe with the notifications on. Lots of great content, and the Sunday afternoon games right there before kickoff are a huge hit. Everybody's getting their lineup questions answered. Last-minute weather reports, injury updates. It's a great place to go check out things on Sunday morning before the games kick off. So make sure you subscribe there after this show. But for now, let's go talk about some quarterbacks and see who we can trust here for week 3. All right, similar to the other episodes, we're going to break down each game, each quarterback in each game, tell you whether I would start them or sit them, and a reason why. And we'll start off on Thursday night with the Jets at the Browns. And on paper, when people saw the Jets versus the Browns there to start the season, they were like, who wants to watch that on Thursday Night Football? But both teams are improved. Now the Browns still looking for that first win. I mean, they're trying to go 1-1-1 here on the season. And they get the New York Jets, but both of these defenses are underrated. Thursday night games tend to be a little bit lacking in offense. All of a sudden, Andy Dalton and A.J. Green changed that in the first half of last week. But after that, there wasn't a whole lot of excitement. I'm not having high expectations for a lot of scoring in this game. I could see a lot of running, a lot of short dump-off passes, and I'm going to pass and sit both Sam Darnold and Tyrod Taylor. On to the Saints and the Falcons. We'll talk about Drew Brees and Matt Ryan. Drew Brees is going to be a definite must-start for me here this week against the Falcons. The Saints are leaning on the passing game. They're not running the ball like they did last year, obviously without Mark Ingram. And Alvin Kamara is even being more effective in the passing game than the running game. Michael Thomas looks out of this world elite. And Atlanta is banged up on the defensive side of the football. I'm starting Drew Brees, absolutely. Matt Ryan, on the other hand, for the Falcons, is also going to be a decent start this week. Now, the Saints defense did look like they had improved slightly last week against the Browns, but it's the Browns, and it's kind of hard to gauge that. They were vulnerable to the deep pass, and that's kind of where Matt Ryan and Julio Jones excel. I look for a big Julio play this week, and I'm starting Matt Ryan against the New Orleans Saints in what could be a shootout. Next up, we got the Packers at the Redskins, so you have Aaron Rodgers and Alex Smith. I'm obviously going to start Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers is playing football, if he's dressed, if he's there on the sidelines, I'm starting Aaron Rodgers. I don't care who he's playing. It's Aaron Rodgers. Alex Smith, though, has been somebody who's kind of been inconsistent. I wanted to call him a safe play, and he is a safe play. But he just doesn't have a high ceiling this week. He may have a high floor and may be somebody that if you have a lot of risk in your lineup, maybe you have running backs or receivers with really tough matchups, and you just need that safe play, then you can go ahead and start with Alex Smith. But otherwise, I just don't like the upside he has for this week against the Packers, and I would sit Alex Smith if I could. Colts at Eagles is next, so you have Andrew Luck for the Indianapolis Colts, and now Carson Wentz for the Philadelphia Eagles. I expect this to be a very emotional game with the fans in Philadelphia. They're going to have Carson Wentz back. They're going to think that they're getting ready to take over the world again in Philadelphia. They haven't really looked like Super Bowl champions so far, but this is Carson Wentz's first game in a while. He's going to need a little bit of time to acclimate himself to this game speed again. And he doesn't have a whole lot of options. He's got Ertz and Aguilar, and that's about it. Everybody else is hurt. He doesn't have Alshon Jeffrey, who he leaned on last year, and Nelson Aguilar wasn't his favorite target. Now, Zach Ertz could get an uptick in volume, but does he have enough weapons to go out there in his first game in a while and put up a huge fantasy day? I'm not seeing it. I want to give Carson Wentz 1 week out there to get in the flow of the game speed and then pick him back up next week. He worries me to start him his first week back. Andrew Luck, on the other hand, is somebody who's starting to regain the confidence that he was missing there to begin the season. I mean, he hadn't played football in a year and a half, and he's finally starting to look better. Now, he obviously doesn't have a ton of elite weapons there on the offensive side of the ball, but T.Y. Hilton, Ryan Grant, Jack Doyle, and Eric Ebron are more than capable of putting up some points. I actually like Andrew Luck this week, and I'm starting him against the Eagles. I expect them to try to come out to a quick start, jump on the Eagles early, and try to demoralize them before they can get any momentum. Buffalo at Minnesota next, and I've said it in all the other episodes. I don't care what position they are. If they play for the Buffalo Bills, I'm sitting them, so no thank you, Josh Allen. If you have to start Josh Allen in your fantasy team, you've probably already lost your season anyway. Now, Kirk Cousins, on the other hand, is somebody who is a definite must-start, especially against Buffalo in that weak defense. Kirk Cousins has a very, very high floor this week. I'm not going to expect a huge 50-point game like last week because they won't have to throw that much this week, but he should have you a solid 20-point week, and I'm all over Kirk Cousins, definite must-start. Raiders at Dolphins are next, so you got Derek Carr and Ryan Tannehill starting off there with the Oakland Raiders. And Derek Carr, the offense finally started to turn things around last week. And one thing that people have forgotten, and I know I've not exactly been on the Amari Cooper bandwagon, but they've played two tough defenses between the Broncos and the Rams. The schedule is going to get easier. Now, Miami isn't a soft defensive matchup by any means, but they're not quite the Rams and the Broncos level either. I really look for Oakland to try to get some momentum going, try to get something moving in the right direction to give them a positive outlook. They're taking a lot of heat for the whole Khalil Mack thing, and John Gruden's trying to find a way to bring back the fan base and make it look like they know what they're doing in Oakland. I can see a big game this week from Derek Carr, and I'm starting him this week. Ryan Tannehill, on the other hand, is just somebody we can't trust yet for fantasy football. I really hope you don't have to rely on Ryan Tannehill. It's not that he's a horrible option. In 2 QB leagues, I would put him as a QB2. But if you have a choice, I'm not starting Ryan Tannehill against the Oakland Raiders. Even though that defense is not elite for Oakland, Ryan Tannehill just doesn't throw the ball enough down the field to give yourself an opportunity at a great fantasy football day. Broncos at Ravens now, so Case Keenum and Joe Flacco, and we just don't know which Joe Flacco we're going to get. Do we get elite first quarter Joe Flacco? Or do we get totally lost second quarter Joe Flacco? We just don't know. It's too inconsistent for me, and I'm hoping you don't have to rely on Joe Flacco either. He's a sit for me almost every week just because of the inconsistencies. However, I do like where the offense is trending. They need to get Alex Collins more involved. If they can really open up that run game, then it may get to the point to where these weapons on the outside for Joe Flacco become more consistent, and he could be a solid bye-week fill-in if needed. But for now, I'm sitting Joe Flacco. Case Keenum for the Denver Broncos is somebody who I still like for the season. This week, though, I'm going to sit Case Keenum. He's just had too many interceptions of late. He's trying to do too much. All these interceptions are just killing his upside, and until he can bring him back down to a normal level, I'm going to sit Case Keenum and hope that offense can kind of establish more of a running game, which would then in turn open up the passing game. But for this week against the Baltimore Ravens, I'm going to sit Case Keenum. Now we got the Bengals at the Panthers, so Andy Dalton and Cam Newton, and I will be starting both of these guys this week if need be. I expect the Bengals to have to throw the ball a little bit more here the next few weeks with Joe Mixon out. I can't see them giving a full 3-down workload to Gio Bernard, and it's easier to throw on the Panthers than it is to run on the Panthers. Cam Newton on the other side of the ball for the Carolina Panthers is going to be a start for me also. That rushing upside, the goal line carries that he calls for himself, he's actually been somewhat successful through the air, only 1 interception here through 2 weeks to go along with 3 touchdowns. Cam Newton's starting to regain that confidence that makes him so elusive and elite from the quarterback position. If you have Cam Newton, you're going to start Cam Newton this week, and it could be a decent week for him up against this Cincinnati Bengals defense. Giants and Texans are next, so you got Eli Manning and Deshaun Watson. And these two are on totally different ends of the spectrum. I'm going to sit Eli Manning for the foreseeable future, obviously. Now, Deshaun Watson is somebody I'm going to start this week for the Houston Texans. Even though that secondary for the New York Giants is a little bit underrated, they're a solid defense there in New York. But it all comes down to Will Fuller. If Will Fuller can play, it opens up the entire field for Deshaun Watson. When Will Fuller sits, the defense just has to focus on one side, whichever side DeAndre Hopkins is on, and it really limits the upside of Deshaun Watson. If Fuller is out there, the defense has to pay attention to him. It then in turn opens up the run game for Lamar Miller, giving Deshaun Watson the opportunity to have a great week. I'm going to start Deshaun Watson. So now you got the Titans at the Jags, so you have the matchup of Blaine Gabbert and Blake Bortles. Ooh, that sounds exciting. But Blake Bortles didn't look bad last week. He hasn't looked bad much this year. I mean, they're putting him in a great position to actually be successful. He doesn't have these big receivers that he's got to throw 50-50 balls to. He's got a lot of quick guys that can get open in space and then make plays happen after they get the ball in their hands. Now, it does sound like Leonard Fournette may be back this week, which kind of opens up the passing game a little bit because now the defense has to stay honest. I'm actually starting Blake Bortles if need be, not reaching by any means, but if you're in an emergency situation and you need a starting quarterback, he's a good streaming option for the week against a Tennessee Titans team that's just downward spiraling at the moment. Blaine Gabbert, though, is somebody who, no, you're not starting Blaine Gabbert. 49ers at Chiefs, so you got Jimmy G, Mr. GQ himself, going up against Patty Mahomes and the ridiculous Kansas City offense. I expect a lot of points in this game, and I'm actually going to start both guys if need be. They're going to have to keep pace in San Francisco. They're going to have to throw the ball. If Marquise Goodwin can come back, I like the chances of Jimmy G this week. Patrick Mahomes, you will start every week that you have him, unless it's like a hurricane outside or like 90-mile-an-hour wind. You're starting Patrick Mahomes every single week with that offense and those weapons that he has. Double homer now in Los Angeles, so you got the Chargers at the Rams, Rivers and Goff. Now, I'm going to sit Rivers and start Goff this week. Both of them have always been safe plays here to start the season. Some of you can count on not a huge ceiling, but a safe floor. I just want nothing to do with that Rams defense. It is just something that could absolutely shut down an offense at any given point. So I'm going to sit Phillip Rivers. Jared Goff, though, tons of offensive weapons against a banged-up defense on the Chargers side, and he's a very safe play. Low ceiling, but a very high floor for Jared Goff, and I would start him if need be. Back to that ugly game of Dallas at Seattle. So you got Dak and Russell Wilson. And as much as I hate to say it, I'm sitting both of them. The offenses that both teams are in right now are just, it's hard to watch. I mean, Russell Wilson is running for his life. He needs to get some more targets there on the outside. He greatly misses Doug Baldwin. And until Doug Baldwin comes back, it's going to be a hit and miss. Not to mention that pass rush and defense of the Dallas Cowboys is very underrated and very difficult to deal with. Russell Wilson already doesn't have an offensive line. It's not going to be a great day for him. He's going to be running for his life early and often. And as far as Dak goes, yeah, I think you all know we're going to sit him for now. Bears at Cardinals. Next, you have Mitch Trubisky and Sam Bradford as of right now, it sounds like. And for the very first time and maybe one of the last times of the year, I'm going to start Mitch Trubisky. That's how bad the defense is in Arizona. I even trust Mitch Trubisky to be the quarterback against the Cardinals. They can't stop anybody. They can't score points. They're overall just struggling in Arizona, and I'm going to take advantage of the matchup while I can, and I'm going to start Mitch Trubisky. Sam Bradford, on the other hand, as of right now, still Sam Bradford, I can see Josh Rosen coming. He is coming here in the next few weeks. He's not the savior to Arizona, but he's going to get an opportunity here pretty soon if they don't turn it around. And by no means are you starting Sam Bradford, though. Offensive shootout of the Patriots and the Lions is next, and I'm going to start both Tom Brady and Matthew Stafford this week. Neither defense is elite. The Patriots just got picked apart by Blake Bortles. Matthew Stafford looks like he returned to form there in week 2 and has tons of weapons to throw to. I don't expect Brady to have Gordon very much, if at all, this week. Hogan is the guy to own there in that wide receiving crew, but there's going to be a lot of offense in this game, and I'm starting both quarterbacks. Same thing goes for Monday night. You got the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, two teams who are not, defensively elite, and they have playmakers on both sides of the football. Ryan Fitzpatrick is now the greatest of all time, apparently, and Big Ben is going to have to throw the ball because the defense can't stop anybody, and they're going to be giving up points. I'm for sure starting both Big Ben and Ryan Fitzpatrick this week if needed. So there's a breakdown for each quarterback in each game here this week. Coming up, if I didn't, get into too much detail on somebody you want to know about, hit me up down below. I'll try my best to get to all the comments. Had over 5,000 the last 2 weeks. It's huge in the comment section. I do my best to get to everybody, but help each other out. I'm seeing a lot of interaction between you guys, and that's great to see. Trying to build the community, keep it growing. Making that push for 20K. Really appreciate the support. Make sure you guys are liking, commenting, subscribing, and I'll talk to you later. Thanks.